Left of the box. Previously on Left of the Box, I shared this clip of she is a member of the Legislative Assembly in British Columbia. So that is the provincial level government. Here in Ontario, we call them members of provincial parliament, or MPP. In BC, it's MLA. Yeah, we have different names depending on which province you're on. Well, most other provinces, it's MLA, except if you're in Quebec, and then it's Member of National Assembly, so MNA. Got that? Got it. Good, great. Canadian politics for the win. But she was on like a Zoom conference call, and Selina Robinson said this on camera, knowing it is being recorded.
We have a whole generation, and we know from the data that it's 18 to 34-year-olds that have no idea about the Holocaust. They don't even think it happened. They don't even understand that Israel was offered to the Jews who were displaced.
Who offered Israel to the Jews exactly? Was it the people living there? No. Somebody just walked up to me and said, "You know what? Your neighbor's house, I'm offering it to you. Go live there." Doesn't work like that.
So they have no connection to how it started. They don't understand that it was a crappy piece of land with nothing on it. There were, several 100,000 people, but other than that,
A crappy piece of land with nothing on it. Well, except for the several hundred thousands of people. Yeah.
it didn't produce an economy. It couldn't grow things. It didn't have anything on it. And that it was the folks who were displaced that came, and the people who had been living there for generations, and together they worked hard, and they had their own battles, right? We know the history. We have a whole generation, and we know from the data that it's 18.
Yeah. So those hundreds of thousands of people that were living there already, they were just, they didn't have an economy. They weren't growing things, they're okay. Then why were they there? Hundreds of thousands of people. And the thing is that they were growing things. They had a culture. They had an economy. They had wonderful things that these settler countries just came and destroyed. It was their land that they were living on, their homes, the Nakba. Horrible. And she's a member of Canadian government saying this on camera. Now, it shouldn't surprise many people. There was a little bit of backlash on this. A little bit. People were quite upset with what she said, as they should be. And we did it. We applied enough pressure for her to step down as a cabinet minister. Selina Robinson steps down as BC's minister following controversial comments. So she stepped down as a cabinet minister, but she's still a member of the Legislative Assembly. She's still an MLA. She's still part of the BC NDP. Now, you see, here in Ontario, we also have an NDP, not the same as the BC NDP. But here in Ontario, we have an MPP, not the same as an MLA, but same type of job. Sarah Jama, she was a member of the Ontario NDP, and shortly after October 7th, she tweeted out a message, made a statement saying, there needs to be a ceasefire. And because of that, she was censured and kicked out of the NDP. She now sits as an independent and is an awesome person, just totally kick ass. So I wonder what the difference between Sarah Jama and this woman was. Actually, I will pull up a picture and maybe we can figure it out together. So we have here Sarah Jama, and we have here Selina Robinson. I wonder what the difference is between Sarah Jama and Selina Robinson. Why is it that she still has her job with the NDP, but she does not? I'm at a loss. Sarah, who is Muslim of Somali descent, living with disabilities. There's something, I think there's something else very particular about her that maybe separates her from Selina. Can't think of it. Can't think of the reason. Yeah. So Selina Robinson is stepping down as BC's Minister of Advanced Education, Premier David Eby announced on Monday afternoon. She will remain in the BC NDP caucus. Because they keep her job there. Now, just to show you some of the framing going around this story, from CBC News, Jewish groups decry Robinson's cabinet exit as Eby slams hateful messages on constituency office. The former minister resigned Monday over comments on the Middle East. BC Premier David Eby has criticized what he's calling hateful messages. We'll get to that in a moment. Her exit on Monday has been decried by Jewish groups, but wasn't enough to satisfy some of her critics. We'll get to this in a moment. Selina's also okay. Robinson, who is Jewish, stepped down as post-secondary education minister on Monday following a sustained outcry over her comments last week that modern Israel was founded on a crappy piece of land. She announced her resignation from cabinet after critics call her comments racist and Islamophobic. Robinson and Eby said she would remain in the NDP caucus. The resignation comes amid ongoing tensions and global protest over the Israel-Hamas war, in which thousands have died since October 7th, when Hamas militants killed 1,200 people and took another 250 hostages. So yeah, that's thousands. So we have what Hamas did, okay, the Israel-Hamas war. I'm seeing here that there was, 1,200 people killed in, I think you're missing some information here. Wonder, it feels like there's something maybe not put in the comment right there to kind of put more context on it, like the 27,000 people killed in Gaza by Israel. Funny, was this a word count thing that they had to cut down the words, maybe? Funny, and 250 hostages, they say something like 30% of them are already gone. A lot of them actually killed by the activities of the IDF, and not mentioning anything about all the hostages Israel has, all the Palestinians that have been arrested over the years for no cause whatsoever and being held in torturous conditions. Funny how the CBC missed that in this article. Officials at Robinson's constituency office were not immediately available for comment. Robinson's exit from the NDP cabinet has caused deep concerns for some members of BC's Jewish community who said they lost an advocate who admitted her mistake and was willing to make amends. Yes, the Jewish community lost one Zionist out of dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens in the Canadian government. Yeah, who's going to represent them now? Huh? Robinson apologized twice. Twice, you hear me? in the days before her resignation, saying, "My words were inappropriate, wrong, and I now understand how they have contributed to Islamophobia and anti-Palestinian racism." Do you? Do you understand? Do you? Oh, but that apology twice. Whew. But it didn't quell the criticism or save her place in cabinet. Nico, Pacific Vice President of the Center of Israel and Jewish Affairs, said Robinson's removal undermines the Jewish community's confidence in BC's government and signaled that Jewish leaders were held to a different standard than others. Sorry. Different standards? Different. Yeah, she is being held to a different standard. Just not the one you think. So Nico said in a statement that the Jewish community has lost a strong voice at a time of increasing acts of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel protests. Why are there anti-Israel protests going on right now? Why? Anti-Semitism, bad. I don't agree with that at all. There should be no anti-Semitism. Keep in mind that when they say there's been an increase in anti-Semitic violence, they also include things like people saying Palestinians shouldn't be genocided. That's considered like hate speech towards the Jewish community from some officials. Yeah, so that's why you're seeing such a huge increase. It's just anyone saying anything pro-Palestinian is now considered to be anti-Semitic, or anything saying, Israel shouldn't be doing the genocide, that's considered anti-Semitic. South Africa, anti-Semitic right now. Just totally anti-Semitic with what they're doing with the ICJ. ICJ, anti-Semitic. The community is both offended and hurt by what has happened to a great ally and British Columbian, he said, given the obvious double standard and loss of Jewish representation in cabinet. Premier David Eby must share what steps he is going to take to repair the relationship and restore the community's trust in him and his government. Double standard. Yeah, there is one. There is. There's a double standard. Rat Boy support for Robinson. You're not... The thing about this article is they're not really saying much about the other perspective either, are we? We believe you have capitulated to a small but loud group of people, said the letter from the association. This is dangerous for our community and the strength of our province's democracy. So, how else was this framed in the mainstream media? National Post! Selina Robinson's ouster shows NDP has no place for Jews who don't submit. Her comment that Israel was a crappy piece of land in 1948 was indelicate but hardly a lie. God. To be honest, I haven't even really read this article. I read the headline. I haven't really read the article. I'm almost feeling like it would be Islamophobic to read this article out loud. Just given what that... we don't need to read this trash out loud. And so then we have this one, which was a more balanced response. Selina Robinson steps down as BC minister following controversial comments. That was the initial article that I was kind of reading from. Seems to be a little bit more balanced from the global news here, which they tend to be a little bit more. And then we have the left-wing perspective here. Selina Robinson should be kicked out of the NDP. Yes. That is a bias I can get behind. From the Maple. If the NDP cared about anti-Palestinian racism, Robinson would have been booted months ago. Because this isn't the first time she said pretty offensive things. The NDP is a safe space for anti-Palestinian racists. This was made clear by the fact it took growing public pressure for British Columbia Premier David Eby to announce that MLA Selina Robinson would be stepping down from her cabinet role, blah, 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 blah. If the NDP cared about anti-Palestinian racism, she would have been kicked out. The context of Robinson spewing these racist lies, ones that are embedded in the DNA of narratives that seek to justify or whitewash the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians from their land by Zionist settlers in 1948 to 49, was her claiming that 18 to 34-year-olds have no idea about history. As many pointed out, her racist lies essentially regurgitated the colonial concept of terra nullius, the legal fallacy invoked by European settlers to justify stealing land from indigenous peoples. Okay, let's go back to the National Post and let's see if there's a contrast here. So putting aside its uncouthness, a crappy piece of land with nothing on it isn't too far removed from the agrarian backwater that was the British mandate for Palestine. At the time of its founding in 1948, Israel's GDP per capita was paltry compared to countries with advanced economies, as it inherited a pre-industrial economy based on exporting fruit to neighboring lands. Since then, Israel has grown its economy 12-fold, a modern economic miracle that rivals South Korea's post-war transformation in scale. So while Robinson's wording could have been better, she was likely trying to make an oft-repeated and generally accurate point about the Israel's rapid economic transformation and celebrated emergence of a globally competitive cutting-edge economy following independence. Quite the difference between National Post and the Maple. Only one is based in fact. Well, they're cherry picking, you know. Maybe the economy in that area from a settler colonial perspective increased since Israel took it over, but there was an economy and culture and everything going on there. They were doing fine. You know. They were doing fine, and then the Palestinians were brutalized by other countries coming in, taking their land, kicking them off, burning down their agriculture, destroying, you know, ties to their community, their history. Something that, you know, the National Post and people like Selina like to leave out of the narrative for some reason. So apparently, if we go back a few tweets here, we decorated Selina Robinson's office to let her know we don't want her as our MLA and that she needs to be ousted as the NDP leader. So this is the thing that I was getting at before.
Hello everyone, me and my comrades came here and we've done a little bit of decorating here.
Look at that. We do not accept your apology. That's in sidewalk chalk right there.
We've done a little bit of decorating here at
Free
Selina
Palestine?
Robinson's office.
Yep, free Palestine, free Palestine. Goodbye, Selina. Crappy piece of parliament, resign from caucus. Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think,
Oh, look. Post-it notes. We got post-it notes on the door.
We got our point across. Let me know.
Gaza lives.
We certainly let her know what we think, and we want her out.
There's a watermelon.
The NDP caucus.
Selina Robinson is a disgrace to Canadian education. Yeah, like keep in mind she was an education minister spewing nonsense like that. She well qualified for that job. We got Zionism, it's Nazism. No argument.
Refuse to have an MLA that's a racist. So her stepping down as the education minister is not enough. We need her out of the caucus. Immediately, we refuse.
What does it say right up there? So we got no Zionist, aka Jewish supremacists, as our MLA. Looks like there's pictures probably of some of the stuff going on over there. I can't quite see it.
Refuse to have an MLA that's a racist. Like and share, everybody. And free Palestine.
So from Lisa McLeod, a politician here in Ontario, she is, I believe, yeah, well, she's conservative. Something the conservatives and liberals can get behind: Zionism. Politicians in Canada are democratically elected. Disagree with a politician? Fine. Want to work to get someone else elected next time? Fine. Feel like harassing and intimidating and vandalizing them and or their office to make them feel unsafe? You committed a crime and should be held accountable. Politicians in Canada deserve to do our jobs without threats like these. We should all have zero tolerance for this, and we must all speak out so it's not normalized. Lisa, MPP. That's Ontario. I'm sorry, you said what? Your party censured Sarah Jama for just saying there should be a ceasefire. Sarah Jama was made to not feel safe in Parliament because she was getting no protections from anyone else. Her office was under attack. You weren't tweeting out shit when this was happening to Sarah. In fact, you were part of the problem. So what's that? We should have a zero tolerance for this? You know, I'll agree with some of those articles. There does seem to be a double standard going on. And this is Joy Henderson saying white women challenge to not confuse discomfort with safety. It's sidewalk chalk and post it at a public office. It's very much time to make politicians feel uncomfortable for being racist. They work for us, paid by us, and need to be reminded of that. Yeah, unless you have like an intense phobia of paper cuts, there is nothing there a good rain couldn't wash away. Oh no, the protest was defeated by rain. That's pretty much what would happen in that situation. Like, you know, no permanent damage, not even damage that's difficult to clean up. Also from more politicians. This is childish and gross and has nothing to do with the many legit groups that protested Selina Robinson. If it isn't intended to discredit the movement to stop genocide in Gaza, it might as well be. Journos, I know you can't help yourself, but please don't fall for this. Post-it notes and sidewalk chalk. If we're not allowed to protest with that, what are we allowed to protest with? You know, there's nothing. I could understand how Zionists being compared to Nazis would feel offensive, but it's not offensive. Jesse Brown, you led this witch hunt, and now you're trying to distance yourself from the results. You say it's merely childish, then you suggest it's a hoax, but you have no evidence that it's anything but hateful act that it is. Then you scold journalists for doing what you imagine they would do. Maybe take some responsibility for what you've done to another human being, says Jesse Brown, who is a publisher in Canada land who's had some controversy lately around Zionism and what's been happening in Gaza and stuff. There's been some controversy there. And Jessa says, keep in mind, Jesse had nothing to say about Selina Robinson's anti-Palestinian racism, but he's very distraught at the sight of post-it notes on her office window. He's not even pretending to be a journalist anymore. Yes, they're not saying anything about all the horrible Islamophobic stuff that's been happening, the anti-Palestinian racism that's been happening. There's no mention, they never mention the tens of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza who have been slaughtered, innocent babies and children, people just living their lives. They're nowhere to ever go back home to. Their entire communities, everything they knew wiped off the face of the earth, but Post-it notes. Huh. Yeah, I can get I can see where it's fair. Yeah. That was sarcasm there. Yeah. Post-it notes? Concrete slabs that were used to be cities. Huh. I don't know. And Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the federal NDP, who really should have stepped down. They really should have had a leadership review in the last convention they had, but they didn't, unfortunately. Peaceful protests cannot include hateful messages. The targeting of MLA Selina Robinson's office with hateful message is wrong. And Agent NDN saying, what was hateful about it? Be honest. Yeah, what was hateful about anything you saw there? I can't think of anything. The post-it notes just saying, free Palestine and resign. And I didn't see any hateful messages. And again, where was Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the NDP, when Sarah Jama was being targeted by the Ontario NDP and kicked out of caucus for simply saying there should be a ceasefire, something that he and his party later agreed with? Huh? And the Serbs pointed out the message was free Palestine and a watermelon in chalk. Because, again, just undiluted anti-Semitism raw. And then somebody replying to this person saying, Terry, which message was anti-Semitic? And Terry replying, fuck off. Because there's really, go back to what the Agent NDN said, what was hateful about it? Be honest. And this person here, Sean Orr, saying, Terry, which message? Asking this person who seems to be offended by this, what was hateful about this? But there's lots of hateful things happening to the people in Gaza right now. That, genocide. Joy Henderson, she needs a lot more than EDI training. What's this about? So, this is one of the apology statements from Selina. She says she will take anti-Islamophobic training in a statement from the NDP caucus. There's no mention of resigning from cabinet, as some have called for her to do. NDP faces protests at its caucus meetings. Let's get a feel for the language she put in this, shall we? My recent comments have caused pain and distress with the Palestinian community, the Muslim community, and beyond. I am very sorry. I bear full responsibility. My words were inappropriate, wrong, and I now understand how they have contributed to Islamophobia and anti-Palestinian racism. During a time of crisis, when many innocent people are being killed, including Palestinians and Jews with family in British Columbia, those positions of power have a responsibility to bring people together. My comments, however, did the opposite and contributed to further division. I know that my comments have additionally caused pain, including among Indigenous communities, for perpetrating harmful narratives of colonialism. The experiences of First Nations people are not mine to manipulate. That was wrong, and I'm deeply sorry. Wait, what? What? What are we talking? I thought she was apologetic. What? Oh, it has something to do with this. In that same little speech thing that she also said this.
I will say here in British Columbia, where we're very focused on reconciliation, if there was a conflict between the Tsleil-Waututh and the Squamish nations over a piece of land, would we weigh in, regular people? And the answer is no. It's between these nations, the Indigenous nations. I will say here in British
It's between Indigenous peoples. It's nothing to do with us regular people. Okay? Ah, ha, ha. Did we hear that right? Did we hear that right? Did we?
British Columbia, where we're very focused on reconciliation, If there was a conflict between the Tsleil-Waututh and the Squamish nations over a piece of land, would we weigh in, regular people? And the answer is no. It's between these nations, the Indigenous nations. I will say here.
Yeah, she said that. Not regular people don't deal with that sort of stuff. It's between the First Nations if they have a conflict. That's regular people. We don't bother with that. Holy fuck. The BC NDP has a bit of a history being anti-Indigenous. They've done things, said things, passed policies, ignored things. I've covered some of it in some of my previous live streams. As far as progressive parties go in Canada, and NDP is considered one of the leftist parties, British Columbia NDP is its own thing. It's not very much on the left with much of anything. And you see, the thing is that this was done at that speech. It's part of a pattern. So, Erica saying white women claiming to be unsaved is weaponization by white women to spaces of color, the next iteration of white tears. So this was from September 2022.
I even remember feeling unsafe around the Wet'suwet'en protests.
Wet'suwet'en is First Nations. They were protesting the invasion of their land to have a pipeline shoved through it. So more anti-Indigenous rhetoric right there. And she was afraid. You see, she was afraid of this.
I even remember feeling unsafe around the Wet'suwet'en protests. People were violently angry, and their words were violent.
And you can see it's billed as a government shutdown. However, they have been very peaceful. They said, we're not protesters, we are picketers.
I even remember.
I saw a hurt. Yeah. BC government shutdown, Wet'suwet'en solidarity. I've been to some protests about that. You see, there's a heart. They just, they don't want their land to be invaded by the Canadian government and have a pipeline shoved through it. But this poor white woman felt unsafe around all of this. Looks like they were singing or chanting, I don't think they were conjuring up anything. I don't think they had that ability. She was safe. She was just uncomfortable. Back to her thing here. I am grateful to each person that has expressed to me their feeling of pain, anger, sorrow, and outrage. All of it is valid. You're valid. You're a valid person. I'm validating your existence. You're valid. I also know that there will be those who are not willing to speak with me. I have broken the trust of many, including friends and allies. Is it fair for them to not want to engage with me? I know I will have to earn back their trust. I am committed to learning from this significant mistake. To that end, I will be taking part in anti-Islamophobic training to more deeply understand the concerns that have been expressed to me. I am committed to making amends, learning from the pain I have caused, and doing whatever I can to build relationships. I am sorry. I will do better. By taking down her Twitter account. She couldn't handle it, so she, her Twitter account doesn't exist anymore. Doesn't feel safe on Twitter anymore, does she?